All right, I looked up the symbol for the characters for comics or manga in Japanese, and then gate. I'm not sure if the translation would work the same way. You know how translations are kind of funky, because probably American comics are different from Japanese comics, which it's funny, is wildly success. I don't know. I don't know if you follow Japanese comics versus American comics. It's like they have single issues that outsell like anything produced in America. Anything, isn't that weird? It's American comics, like such a big market. It's how can Japanese comics outsell American comics? And then you read American comics and Japanese comics, and you go, oh, this is why. Because American comics are horrible. Holy cow! Compared to Japanese comics, it's Japanese comics are like, what are we going to set out to do? We're going to set out to tell an entertaining story. Oh. Yeah, but what about like pronouns and blonde man bad? No. We're just gonna make an entertaining story. Oh, okay. That's a bridge too far for American comics. So this lady, if you remember, 7 years ago, she was the one. She gave this interview where Hillary Clinton was leaving the 9/11 thing, and it was hot and humid, I guess, and she just starts to pass out. Like, she just starts to black out as she's getting into her handy-capable van. She doesn't have a limo. She's got a weird van type of thing. Probably with an oxygen tank. Or anyway, so she passes out, and they, the load of garbage that she is, human garbage, and they throw her into the van, and they interview her later, and they go like, well, this is, she's 70-plus-year-old lady. She passes out from the heat. Get her in a van. You know, most people who is taking care of somebody, a VIP, unless this is a common occurrence, you would take them to an emergency room and get an IV and cooling pads and that kind of stuff, unless it's a common occurrence. And actually earlier, I think like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, she did pass out, faint, and had a concussion. She's got all kinds of health problems. It's just Hillary Clinton 2024. Anyway, so she's the one who gave the interview with that. And, all the people who were doing damage control for the Clintons in 2016, she was a trip, because you see a situation that is just objectively insane, and you've got to spin it, even though, like, you see the evidence with your own eyes. But the upside to that is that the media interviewing you, unless it's Fox, are just going to spin right along with you. It's like Jen Psaki does the same thing, where she has to spin questions, and like everyone in the room knows it's insane levels of horse dung, but it is what it is. Anyway, so click the links for Odyssey, Bit Chute, join channel, become a member, or support channel, copy of the various other links. So supporting the Clintons, it's funny, they legitimately do have a body count, getting focused, behind them. And not a whole lot of people talk about it. It's like you get people in the media going like, yeah, I'm not going to get killed over a news story. It's like whatever bullshit you think the media does in those like 80s movies about the media going there and getting the story and speaking truth to power. It's like, yeah, that's Hollywood. Like, this is just a job for people. Anyway, so fighting the culture war by divesting from the mainstream globalist machine. It's kind of seen this interesting merger of politics and corporate propaganda. So Comicsgate is this interesting phenomenon. It's because it's a small group of people who are merging business with social interaction. A club where you provide some of your own entertainment. You roll your own. And it's coming from the right of center people. It's a right-wing social business club. And it feels like something they would do in Japan, but with more obesity. Maybe the difference is if SJWs do something like this, it doesn't work as well because they're horrible people and they hate each other. They really hate each other, but they also look for the opportunity to stab each other in the back where people on the right they just don't care about as much of that political correctness stuff. I mean, you would have to like commit hate crimes in front of people before it started getting there. Just repeatedly use the N-word or something before people started paying attention. Like, oh, SJWs are different. They'll scroll through people's social media tweets. There's that chick who got interviewed in the news. She's a reporter who's talking about how hateful people are on Twitter. And she's a lady who would scroll through people's social media if they made the news to find out them using like gay as a pejorative or dropping N-words back when it wasn't as big a deal or whatever was politically incorrect. N-words was always a big deal, and how dare you use gay as a pejorative? I'm like, whatever, dude. Life wasn't always like this current Bolshevik revolution. Believe it or not, there used to be a different... Anyway, so I forget her name, Lorenzo or something. She got interviewed, and how hateful Twitter is. And then the interview came to light, and she got more hate because journalists aren't people. I'm not saying you should take them on a helicopter ride, but they're really, really not people. Anyway, so SJWs, yeah, they've got the mainstream industry, but they didn't. That interview stuck with me because it was like a 1984 interview where they're objectively telling you something that you didn't see what you saw, and then if you present them with evidence, they go, "Oh, okay, well, yeah, you did see what you saw, but it was a really hot, muggy, humid day." And go, well, how many other people fainted there, and why didn't you take her to the ER? Like, does she have a history of fainting? Anyway, that's about all the time we have for this interview. Like, oh, our government is we're in deep. We're just up. We're up poop creek, and it's raining buttholes. So yeah, SJWs, they have the mainstream industry. They didn't create it. They took it over. And even if they do create something, hey, God bless them. Go for it. Knock yourselves out. They can have the mainstream. If they want Disney and its subsidiaries, and don't get me wrong, Disney is a monster. If you look at the companies Disney's either owns outright, subsidiaries, has connections with, it is huge. But it's not, believe it or not, there's a meme going around. They go, oh, you're going to boycott Disney and all its subsidiaries? And then they show the list of the companies, and people look at it and goes like, yeah, I don't pay for any of that stuff as is now, or if I do, it's nothing I couldn't do without. I don't need to pay $14 a month for Disney Plus. It's just I don't. It's just a nice thing. It's like it's not a requirement for whoever companies Disney owns. I don't know. They own ABC and Hulu, I think, and ESPN maybe. It's like, yeah, we can do away with all that. I know there are a lot of people who like sports, but people are falling out of love with sports because you see how the players feel about you. They hate you, and then you see how the owners feel about you, and they hate you with an incandescent rage that I cannot even go into on YouTube, or that would be the last video. So you don't need any of that stuff. You can give your kids books. Like, hey kids, these are books. These are stories on paper. This is what we grew up with. Disney is for groomers, and modern comics now are just sad. So I saw that Fantastic Four, I put it on the community post, that Fantastic Four comic the other day where Stretchy Dude has to slap the silliness out of the Invisible Woman. Nowadays, that would probably never get to that scene because the woman would be in the lead, saving the day, being a Mary Sue purse puppy, and the guy would probably be dilating and crying while he takes his estrogen. If you want a simple and not too crazy example that's not like so far insane bias like some of the America Chavez or Miss Marvel or Captain Marvel, just like the insane stuff, you can look at the two High Republic Star Wars comics. One's written for, I guess, tweens, and one's written for teens, and they're both called High Republic, but they have different art styles, and they're a different series. And they're about a year old, so they got about 13 issues, and you can go through and read them. And on both cases, you're going to notice who the protagonists and the antagonists are. And plot twist, it's exactly what it's just as effing insane as you expected. Anyway, so Comicsgate is interesting because it was only made possible because the mainstream was such cancer that you're able to build another. Like, all they had to do with the mainstream was just keep it rolling. You didn't have to go down this path, but they very wisely go down this path. They go into something. They're just parasites. They go into something, they destroy it, and then they move on, and then they clap themselves on the back, like, well, the industry was changing, and we're just, is it transformative, or are you shepherds of an industry? It's like, no, we are transformative. We are curative or transformative. The concept. Which is interesting. That's like, at least SJWs have a concept of curative versus transformative to what you do with these properties. Like, all you had to do was be good stewards, good shepherds, and maintain the, like Lord of the Rings, where they're swapping out everything. It's like, maintain the original artistic vision. And for them, again, a bridge too far. We cannot do that. So nowadays, modern comics are like, oh, so what's that comic you're reading? It's called White People Bad. Or at least that's what the name would be if you put on the They Live glasses. Probably one of the best movies ever made. It's like 1984, but just a little bit more based. Gee, I can't help but notice that every antagonist has green or blue eyes and blonde hair. Or they shave the head, but they still have light-colored eyes. Do bad guys not have black hair or black eyes? Not in comics, they don't. Absolutely not. So Comicsgate got its start with Jawbreakers, which really should go down in history. Credit to, yeah, boy, Zach for that. As the comic that kind of started it all. But history now is recorded digitally, and it's constantly changing. That is a shame. That every once in a while someone will write, like there was a book, Kaufman wrote a book, it was, I don't know, Generation X or something. It was like, it kind of covered pop culture history. I read a little bit and gave it away. It kind of covered pop culture history from 1990s to, I don't know, 2015-ish about, interesting. It's like if you want to do a history of something, you really have to write it down, print it, and publish it. Because anything digital is like, well, the servers are down. Oh, it's gone. It's just gone. I mean, yeah, you can archive stuff, but it's like, how are you going to... I mean, really, the hard copy of an actual physical book. And it's funny, people were saying, oh, someone should write a history of Comicsgate. It's like, yeah, it would be interesting. I mean, there's obviously not enough demand for that to make it financial, but it would have been interesting. I mean, you still can do it, because if you've been in it at the beginning, you can talk to people. It's like, it's still fresh enough. It's a minor little piece of history, and the only way to kind of get it down is actually produce it. I don't know. You could bundle it with another project. The thing is, it's just the people who went through it. Like you went through it, it's not interesting to you unless you're just such a fantastic writer that you can make it palatable. And the people who are not into it, it's like you don't want to read about something that is this inside baseball. Anyway, so now Disney has taken off the mask. And it turns out that he is it looks, well, what are you doing there, Mickey 1469. So he's taken off the mask, and it turns out he is a rat after all, just a filthy vermin. People in the 90s were quick to talk about the military-industrial complex. They love that phrase. Now we have this propaganda corporate complex of mainstream media, social media, and alt-left corporations, except they never talked about the military-industrial complex when, what's his face, Obama was in office. And bombing foreign countries with Obama and Biden or Clinton it was just A-OK. It's like, so what happened to those anti-war songs when Bush was in office, Slater Kinney? What happened to that? They wrote this cringy combat rock song. It was an okay song, but it's like, so, that was in the 2000 to 2008, I guess. What happened before that with Clinton, and what happened after that with Obama? Are you gonna, they bomb in the same countries. Would you like to talk about that? Maybe some protest songs? Oh, no, we got really busy during that 16-year period. Oh, okay, all right. It's just Bush that just, like, suddenly everyone's anti-war during Bush, and it's suddenly, oh, well, we're bombing countries for freedom. We're bringing them, we're I don't know what we're doing. It's just cringe. It's like, you guys are really nothing more than shilly sellout mouthpieces. We're raging for the machine. Quick, track down those J6 guys who were actually speaking truth to power. Yeah, or the trucker convoy. It's like, oh, God, Elon Musk supported the trucker convoy. He must be a Nazi. You mean that small group of the little man against the big government machine? What does it say when corporations are on the side of the government? Isn't that kind of isn't Antifa and BLM, aren't they the brown shirts? Like, literally? Anyway, so you got this corporation, this propaganda complex of businesses, media, and social media all working together. Globalists use corporations to further ideological goals. I think finally the normies are starting to wake up and realizing that they are the surface levels of the articles of incorporation, but then there's this hidden charter of the left-hand path of the true corporate identity. These are not profit-driven business entities. They are globalist parasites pushing propaganda to brainwash society. They're not dumb people. They're evil people. There's a huge difference. There's like levels of actions. At the bottom is negligence, then recklessness, then intent for levels of, I don't know, culpability or how you intend to do something, how something, like causation. And this isn't negligence. This is intentional behavior. You think, oh, but they're just a journal entity. They're following their articles of incorporation. They're doing what they set out to do. And shareholder values, either growth companies or dividend companies, right? Or maybe there's new corporate forms now. I don't know how that all works nowadays. So what are they? Is there a return on investment for the shareholder? Not so much anymore. It's like, aren't you violating your articles of incorporation? The people who make the rules are all on board with this too, this ideologically driven. I mean, all you got to do is look at Biden's cabinet. It kind of answers all those questions. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe, support channel on Coffee if you can, or become a member, or join the Telegram. You need a phone number to do it, but luckily you can find those phone numbers online. You might even be able to share phone numbers. Like if someone has a legitimate burner, they're digital burner numbers you can find online, but you have to go through a bunch of them before you find one that works. You can use Google Voice to get you a number, or actually you could buy a phone, which would is something probably handy to have. Phones and those Faraday, how to make your own Faraday cage. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys on the next episode.